Ladies and gentlemen, we've got another update in regards to the Israel-Iran situation with Donald Trump moving the proverbial goalposts again, now saying and floating the idea that maybe a regime change in Iran is not such a bad thing. We know that Trump and the administration, and here's a clip of Rubio, who had just before hours Trump put out this Truth Social, had said they are not going for a regime change. They are just going to make sure Iran does not have a nuclear program, which that in and of itself seems very cloudy. How do you enforce something like that, especially considering all of the rumors that Iran maybe moved a lot of their enriched uranium from the big facilities to potentially try and divert the facilities from being struck, or even if the facilities get struck, then maybe they could save a lot of the enriched uranium, and we really don't know where a lot of it is right now. This is turning into a little bit of a mess. Obviously, it was still a very successful strike by the United States onto Fordo, which was the most important Iranian nuclear facility. It took over 10 years to build. There was a lot of investment into it, and it's a catastrophic thing for Iran. We don't know the exact damage, but based on the MLBs that were dropped, it's probably catastrophic. And Trump has said it's catastrophic. Iran has tried to downplay it because, 99% of what the regime says, the Ayatollah says, it's going to be a lie. And that also comes in regards to the idea that, oh, there's going to be these major strikes against the United States, against their military bases. They keep threatening that right after Israel preemptively struck Iran. They also threatened Israel, and they did send in hypersonic missiles, but they always kind of overdo their threats versus the actual military action. So it's important to understand when people get scared about that. But when it comes to even taking down their nuclear program, how do you find all of the sites if a lot of them are hidden? It becomes a very complicated thing. But the Trump administration has said, we're only invested, or at least this is what they said prior to yesterday, we're only invested in making sure Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Israel, believe it or not, before these strikes by Trump, had said that they had already set back the Iranian nuclear program by 2 or 3 years. How they estimate that, how they come up with that number, who knows? But that's what they said. And then so Trump comes in with his strikes and he said, well, they've destroyed 3 of their top nuclear facilities and where a lot of their enriched uranium is right now. J.D. Vance talked about that yesterday, the idea that there is some potential facilities that they don't know about. I mean, these are very complicated things in terms of finding out where everything is and making sure Iran does not have the capability to produce a nuclear weapon, even though if you look at the U.S. intelligence and Tulsi Gabbard, they weren't very close anyways. And really, none of us really believe that Iran was all that close to creating a nuclear weapon. They enriched to 60% for sure, and you could use that as escalation, and it was heavy escalation. The issue is when you're talking about enriching to 60%, that can be done as a deterrent, meaning, oh, we might develop a nuclear bomb. It's there's a big incentive, especially considering Trump withdrew from the original deal, and you can say, well, they were already violating that, okay? But then the thing is if you play the situation out to where you withdraw from the deal, Iran goes crazy with their enrichment. If you look at their enrichment history, right when Trump withdraws, that's when it goes way up, all the way up to 60%. And then we're talking about, again, there's multiple steps in creating a nuclear bomb, including tests, which have not been done by Iran. So the fear mongering about Iran having this nuclear weapon, it's really, that's all it is fear mongering. Israel saw a moment, they sensed it. You look at the proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, they're weakened. China, Russia, we'll see. There's a report coming out that I believe it says China will potentially help Iran. We're also tracking the Strait of Hormuz. There's been action there with some tankers getting turned away, being told to turn back. You look at crude oil, it's actually down $1. It's back down to around $73. Trump has tweeted out, oh, don't raise the oil. That's really not how global markets work. But Trump literally tweeted out, keep the oil prices low. You're playing into their hands. But like I said yesterday, Iran really doesn't have the capability to close the strait because of U.S. naval presence. Now, they can make it very tough and they can do some type of targeted campaign to harass ships, but they can't, I don't think, prolong, because this is going to have a huge impact. You're talking about 60% of overall the global oil, and oil is a global market. So in terms of keeping the prices down in the United States, even if only 5% of the US oil flows through the strait, it's irrelevant because oil is a global market. So all of our oil prices are going to be impacted by the strait. Whether it closes, they can say it's closed, but they can't really enforce it. To a degree, they can make it harder, yes, and it could raise oil prices, but they would be creating animosity against China and their allies unless they already had some type of agreement with China. But you can see what Trump says. It's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change mega? And so people say, well, this is a joke, this is leverage, this is Trump maybe trying to tell the Iranian people, a lot of the younger people hate the regime, rise up, start a revolution. I don't think this is a joke, honestly. I would imagine this is what Trump wants. You could argue this is what a lot of people want. The issue is, what is the point in meddling in a situation like this thousands and thousands of miles away in the Middle East? This is what we were trying to avoid. Whoever runs Iran, does it have really any bearing on the United States? No, but it has a big bearing on Israel. And so with the Israeli influence, it becomes important for, I guess, Trump and for the United States. And you could say, well, also because of the oil, but I mean, I mean, like, what do you want us to do at this point? We're not, this obsession with being involved in these countries 7,000 miles away and their regimes and their terrorists. And it's like, but what are they going to do to the United States? They can't do anything to us. The only thing they can really do is hit our military bases that are close to them. And obviously that would be done in response to us trying to blow up their nuclear facilities. So it's just like the whole thing about regime change. Obviously, people start thinking boots on the ground. If you look at Iran, it is a massive country. And we know it has 90 million people. You could say, sure, a lot of those people don't like the regime. My thought on what Trump will probably try and do is create some type of destabilized environment that could foster a regime change via an uprising from the civilian force. Whether or not that's viable, who knows? But that's what I would say in terms of what Trump probably would like to do. I think he knows the red line. There can't be any boots on the ground. It has to be organic, which it really wouldn't be organic. It would be through destabilization, whatever that means. I mean, that could mean the U.S. having to strike other areas of Iran. But obviously, Israel is all in on regime change. And it seems like now Trump is potentially as well. And again, I know people are saying this is a joke. This is not, it doesn't read like a joke at all. It reads like Trump is floating the idea of saying, well, I mean, they're all, you look at the Ayatollah, nobody likes them. So it's like game on. And the United States and Israel, it seems like they want the same thing. They want regime change. Israel is pushing for it a lot more. But I mean, you've also got Rubio coming out yesterday, about 2 hours before Trump said this, and saying, we're not looking for a regime change. We just want to make sure Iran doesn't have the capability to create a nuclear weapon. And there's haziness surrounding that, again, in terms of where is the enriched uranium? How many facilities are they hiding? How does this process play out? I mean, you would imagine, considering Fordo was the big whopper in terms of the facility to where they were storing a lot of it that Israel could not get to because they didn't have the proper MOBs. You would figure Israel could do a lot of the hits on some of these other facilities if they really wanted to destroy all of them. But Trump coming out and floating this, it doesn't read like a joke to me. You could say, well, maybe, I mean, even the idea of using it as some type of leverage. In what? Like, what are we negotiating with Iran at this point? I don't understand people saying, well, there's negotiations, there's going to be a ceasefire. What's there to negotiate? I mean, Iran would have, the negotiation would likely be from the United States. I think Trump still wants unconditional surrender. And what does that mean? So to me, it's clear that this is going to be potentially a longer situation. Hopefully the United States is not involved too much. But with what Trump has said over the last few weeks, Look, you don't want to say it, but it's worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. It just keeps getting worse. And now it's gotten to the point where now he's the one floating regime change and saying, "Oh, it's a good thing." Okay, oh, it's a good thing. The country, this country's 7,000, 8,000 miles away from us. But yeah, we better have that regime change because they hate us. What are they going to do to us? Have they tested a nuclear bomb? Have they even achieved miniaturization to have a nuclear bomb? Have they even achieved 90% enrichment? Oh man, I don't know. You try and paint this in a positive light because I like Trump, but again, it's like it seems like there's going to be some U.S. involvement. What does regime change mean? What is the level of involvement from the United States? Maybe it's mostly Israel. But even then, I mean, this is the thing. This is why I wanted the nuclear deal, because we were getting all these people that said, oh, Trump's in bed with Israel. And so we get the nuclear deal. That shuts all of that down, at least to a degree. But we didn't get it. But it's like we've done a 180 from the nuclear deal. We've done a legit 180. Not only is there no nuclear deal, Israel strikes Iran. Trump says he was talking to Netanyahu and helped Netanyahu divert Iran to bring down their defenses so Israel could perform successful strikes. And then Trump uses B-2 bombers, I think a total of 7 of them, to strike the nuclear facilities. And then the next day says, you know what? Let's make Iran great again. We need regime change. And he's also praising Netanyahu, saying Netanyahu is being treated unfairly as a wartime leader. So, I mean, this is, I don't know what to say. But listen, maybe this is somehow, but what is there to negotiate with Iran? What are they going to negotiate? I don't understand. So Iran's going to accept unconditional surrender and getting rid of all of getting rid of their entire nuclear program? Look, we'll see how Iran responds in terms of this. It's looking like the Khamenei regime has been given the order to strike U.S. assets in the Middle East. Very dangerous. Whether or not this ends up happening, who knows? These reports come out. Russia ready to help Iran, according to the Kremlin. Trump is attacking Thomas Massie. See, this type of stuff, do we really need, like, a giant wall of text about Thomas Massie? Who cares? And I understand Trump getting mad because these people are saying, oh, he needs to be impeached. And people like Massie are saying it because they think every little thing that Trump does must have congressional approval. Yes, I'm exaggerating. Obviously, striking Iran is not a little thing, but it is not. They say, oh, it's an act of war. It's war. No, it's targeted strikes. It's actually, you could argue, deterrence, because he's deterring them from creating a nuclear bomb. So see, I've been critical of Trump, but against Massie is just so deranged. And then Massie is like, oh, I take no AIPAC money, and then brags and says, I just raised another 40,000. Keep giving me money to be anti-Israel. All right, dude, you're anti-Israel. That's very nice. But it's this thing to where it becomes this grift to be anti-Israel, and then he brags about the money he fundraises off of it. This is what he does. But like, Massie obviously likes the attention. Somebody needs to advise Trump, and it doesn't even matter because Trump won't listen, but just stop giving him attention. Just stop giving him attention. But now he's trying to primary him out, and then it puts this thing to where, oh, Massie's the one that's anti-Israel. Trump's in bed with Israel. Of course, Trump would try and primary him out. And he's going to invest a bunch of money, and he's going to campaign for whoever the challenger is in that primary in Kentucky. But it's like, this is what Massie wants. You give a wall of text to him. You got to ignore people like this, man. But this has always been a thing with Trump, to where any little news reporter, I mean, you're just giving these people what they want when you mention them. So, but I agree. I mean, the idea that he would be impeached, you have to understand, in terms of executive powers and executive authority with strikes, it's a real gray area. So anything that Trump does, liberals would say, let's impeach him. That's why liberals' opinion to me doesn't matter, because they hate Trump so much. They've disqualified their own opinion. Now, that's not every single one of them, but all of their mainstream politicians, like AOC, I mean, these are people that just, their opinion, how can anyone take their opinion seriously? They clearly just hate Trump. So Trump could do anything and they would have a negative opinion on it. So what does it matter? Why do I care what you say? You're just going to hate anything Trump says. Oh, you want to impeach Trump? Oh, I'm shocked. I am so surprised you want to impeach Trump. That's wow, we got to listen to you. You're not biased at all. So it's like they disqualify their own opinion because of how anti-Trump they are. And that's most of the mainstream left at this point. But like the whole idea of impeaching him because, oh, you gotta tell Congress. But now at this point, Trump is like, they don't even tell the Democrats that have security clearance what they're going to do, because the Democrats will leak it and then say, oh, Hegseth, it's another leak by Hegseth, signal, because these Democrats will leak anything that you have to stop telling them. And this was a very, very good operation, and there were no leaks, and you have to praise Hegseth and other cabinet members for that. But they just, the only reason there was no leaks is because they didn't tell any of these Democrats. Now, sure, some of them I'm sure wouldn't have leaked, and this is important information, but a lot of these people hate Trump so much, you leak it anonymously, and then they blame it on the administration. This is what this is how it goes. Now, sure, the signal message wasn't even Hegseth that did that. It was Waltz, or somebody that worked for Waltz. But look, when it comes to this, I think we'll have to see what Trump decides. But it's like, it's one thing to the next, and it keeps. I mean, are we seriously going all the way to boots on the ground? Is it inevitable? I hope it's. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Trump knows there has to be some red line, and you could potentially achieve this without boots on the ground because of how hated the regime is and how old the Ayatollah is. But then whoever gets installed. If there's no U.S. influence there, whoever gets installed might also hate the United States. But at the end of the day, what does it matter? Look at where this country's located. I know people like, well, the oil prices. Well, I mean, the reason there's a disruption right now with the oil is because of the Israel and the U.S. strikes on to the nuclear facilities. That's why there would be a disruption. And honestly, there's not even a disruption right now. I know they're threatening closing the strait. They've threatened it about 20 times in the last 40 years. It hasn't happened fully. They can't fully close it. They can say it's closed. They don't have the authority to actually implement it because of our presence there. And it also affects many other countries. And Iran is already politically isolated, so are they really going to do that? I don't think so. And if they do, that wouldn't be a smart decision by them, because they would alienate themselves even more. And in the long term, it would probably help the idea of a regime change, because more countries would turn on them. I mean, they would have to, again, talk to China about it before doing it, because of the amount of oil that China gets from them. But we will have to see in terms of that. Either way, guys, make sure you like the video down below. Also follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.